good, the bad, and the odd. It's a thing.
Welcome to this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Odd with your hosts Mark and Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Now, we haven't put out a show in a while because life's been too busy. It's been a mad month, really. But we've decided to come back and talk about Dune, which we watched about 3 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Now, we went to see it at the cinema, and I actually went to see it again at the cinema. Because I'd already arranged to go with some mates. So I went to see it twice. It's obviously it's a new version of the Frank Herbert original story from 1965. And it's only half of that book too, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually called on screen Dune Part 1 as well. So directed by this is pronounced several different ways. So Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
There we go, that way. Yeah. And written, adapted by him, John Sparks and Eric Roth. And it's was planned as a two-parter, but they wanted to see how this one went before they commit. The studio wanted to see how this one went before they committed to the second part. But they greenlit it, so it's on. Yeah. It's on. I'm looking forward to seeing it. So I won't go into it too much, but essentially this is kind of space politics, and intrigue and sort of power plays between powerful sort of houses, they're called in this universe, particularly the House Atreides, which are the good guys, and the House Harkonnen, which are the bad guys, and behind it all is the Emperor too, who we don't actually see in this film, right?
No, that was a bit weird.
Just his representative. So cast is quite amazing, really. Timothy Chalamet.
Really cast.
Yeah, great cast. Well cast, I'd say as well. Timothy Chalamet is Paul. Rebecca Ferguson is Jessica. Oscar Isaac is the Duke. Josh Brolin is Gurney Halleck. Stellan Skarsgård is Baron Harkonnen. Dave Bautista is Beast Raban. Stephen McKinley Henderson. Now, I'm not sure who he is. Let me just have a look. Oh, he's Thuthia Howard. We also get Zendaya as Chani. We have, I won't read all these out. Charlotte Rampling is quite a standout as the Reverend Helen Guy Mahane. Jason Momoa is Duncan Idaho. And Javier Bardem is Stilgar.
Yeah.
We
should mention Sharon Duncan Brewster as Liet Kynes.
Okay. Yes. She was good as. Sorry, I didn't recognise her name. That's what I did say. This is the third time it's been adapted. There was the '84 David Lynch film, which is in our Hall of Good, Bad, and Odd. It's our second favourite. It's picked by Flash Gordon, but it is really highly. We like that film. And then there was also a 2000 miniseries, which I kind of like, but it's not great. But it's kind of fun, and it kind of does a decent job with the material. And there's some really quite outstanding bits. Actually, I quite like the version of the Baron in that version actually, because he's a bit more sane than we tend to.
He's not like just a monster of various calibers.
So it was going to come out late 2020, but COVID delayed it, and they kept holding off. And there's been all sorts of shenanigans and arguments about whether it should be just streamed and whether it should be in a cinema, and suing about that and all this, that, and the other.
I would say it should be seen in the cinema. So
yes, I think it's a very cinematic experience indeed. I'm glad I saw it at the cinema. I'm glad I saw it twice at the cinema, in fact. And I think it might still be on in cinemas. I'm not entirely sure about that. Maybe not. It's been a while. So it's, as I say, part 2, and they're planning to release it in 2023, October 2023. So we've got 2 years before that. But these things tend to shoot by, in my experience. It's amazing how fast time flies sometimes. So let's get some general feels. Did we already mentioned we like the casting. Was there any particular standouts in the cast for you?
Standouts, Timothy Chalamet. Every other person in this is like, even just aesthetically, he looks way younger than he actually is. So he comes across more as the 15-year-old Paul.
He does. Yeah. supports himself quite well in that sense. You kind of get the feeling it's a 15-year-old, but brought up among adults, right? That's kind of vibe you get from.
And also, he plays the Gom Jabbar a bit more like restrained.
Yeah.
It's like they say, it's like, oh, you can't show fear. Well, no. Well, the actual rule is you can't take your hand out. It comes across as you can't like react really, and the other two are just sort of like sort of full on screaming.
If I remember, Carl.
Yeah. Whereas Timothée Chalamet just like it's not. He is really trying to hold it in, but it's the occasional like barks of pain almost.
Yeah. I have to say, other standouts for me was Zendaya, and only because I really don't like Zendaya in a lot of stuff. She always feels like she's not great at act. She feels like she's playing it like I'm too cool to be acted in this film. But I have to say,
to be fair, you've only really seen, as far as I know, you've only really seen her in the Spider-Man films.
Now I've seen her in Greatest Showman.
Okay.
Few other things, but in that and all of them I feel like that. But I have to say she was really good as Shani. I've changed my opinion of her now. I think I've underrated her, and I have to say Rebecca Ferguson gave a good performance, though I have a little issues with the way she was directed, and I'll talk about that when we get in. And I have to say the real standout to me, my favourite version, my favourite actor in a character I know in this is Javier Bardem as Steve. He's so good. It's ridiculous how good he is. Given how little screen time he's got, he absolutely knocks it out of the park. I have to say also, I felt I wanted to see a bit more of Stephen McKinley Henderson actually as Future Howard. He doesn't get much of a role, which is a bit of a shock.
He kind of disappears just before the actual Harkonnen attack, and they never really follow up on it.
No,
but they do follow up on the Harkonnens, which would be like an ideal place to show. Oh, he's now stuck with the Harkonnens. So
I feel that this film is a shorter version of one we should have seen. Actually, I hope there's a director's cut. I could do with another hour of this. I've got to say. But we'll see. But some of the casting when I first heard it, I was saying, ooh, but honestly, it totally worked. Oscar Isaac as the Duke, amazing.
Yeah, I feel like Oscar Isaac may be the best interpretation of the Duke we've seen. Because while we don't really see his politicking we don't really see it in any adaptation, really. We do see a lot of him like being fatherly, but very like caring for his son.
Yes,
which like leads very much into the Jessica would betray her entire sisterhood to help this man. Sort of thing.
It kind of does come across. I feel William Hurt in the TV version was pretty good too, but he was more of a statesman than a father in that. Version, so that was a slightly different version.
I do feel like this guy's a better politica than things. Yes. Like he immediately is like he just shoves his emotions down. It's like, are you going to protect my son? To his wife, his son's mother. Well, not his wife, but
yeah. And he says,
like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the Bene Gesserit. Are you going to be able to?
Yeah, well, we'll come on to the Bene Gesserit in a bit, but it was very moody. It was quite a slow film.
Yeah.
Not a bad film for that. It was just quite.
I like that it started with a nonsense like gurgling sound with subtitles.
Like, there was something else in the intro that caught my eye, and I can't remember what it was now. There was a weird bit that was like, what's going on there? Now, but I have to say, if you compare it with David Lynch's Dune, and we are going to compare it with David Lynch's, it's an entirely different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
It's much more like, what's it like? It's a bit like Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
If anything, right? It's got that kind of vibe. And it's kind of glorious, and it's very cinematic, and it's slow. There's some really interesting choices made, and I have to say I feel some of the choices are in many ways a reflection on David Lynch's Dune. I don't know what Villeneuve said about that version, but I feel like there were some choices made in this film which were reflections of Lynch's film, either kind of mirroring it or trying to be the direct opposite of it in some ways.
I can kind of see where you're going,
Yeah. I'll give it a silly example. I think I said this when we came out. I missed the eyebrows, right? I missed the eyebrows on Fufu Hauer and Peter De Vries. And in this film, pointedly,
they don't have eyebrows.
Have no eyebrows, so it's like that feels like a reaction to me.
Yeah,
it does feel like a reaction. For example, that's a silly one, but for example, there is that.
I wish they would have kept is pretty much all of the internal monologuing is gone.
Yeah, all of that.
There's bits of like Paul's visions, which we didn't actually see in the other two, really. It was just sort of said that he was having visions.
Yeah, one of the things I like about the bit, we'll talk about the visions there, is the fact that we're not seeing the future to come, because he is prescient and the spice is affecting him, but we're seeing possible futures. We see things that don't actually happen, but you get the perception. And this film bears up rewatching because of this, because you kind of start realizing who certain characters are. For example, for
example, I'm gonna be like frank with quote unquote spoilers, because we've talked about
this is an old story.
They show Jamis like quite early on, and it's like him sat friendly with Paul. This is in one of Paul's visions. He sat friendly with Paul, just talking like, "I'll show you the ways of the desert. I'll teach you everything you need to know."
Yeah.
And then come to actually meeting Paul, and he's like a frothing maniac.
Yeah.
Who demands like a fight.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. And he has He has taught him the ways of the desert. Like
Indeed. And the ways of the Fremen too. It's also, we get it starts with a setup of like the Fremen have been oppressed by the Harkonnens for hundreds of years, which again is kind of 80 years, I think they say, actually. And they hate the Harkonnens, and by dint of that, they hate anyone coming to rule the planet. So the Duke has got quite a big obstacle to overcome because of that, and he tries to do it pretty quickly with Stilgar, but Stilgar's not convinced at all. Anyway, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. It kind of starts with us getting the setup of the Fremen, and dealing with like spice harvesters.
Chani is for the most part our narrator in this.
Yeah, Chani is.
Which again feels like a distinct flip from let's have a long explanation from Irulan, which is lifted straight from the book.
Yeah. So. Yes, indeed. They have been ordered, and then we see Leto and the Atreides have been ordered to take over the fiefdom of Arrakis from the Harkonnens and move from their home planet, which is sort of more. It looks like Scotland, doesn't it? Really, it's like Macbeth.
They specifically say they've mastered air power and sea power on their planet, so I imagine it's like a mostly ocean-based planet.
Yeah, so they're going from a water planet to a desert planet, and Beast Raban is not happy that it's.
No, he's like a frothing maniac.
Yeah, I quite like Batista in this. He was all right. It's quite a change from the mental. Was it Paul Smith was the Beast Raban in the Lynch? He's a grinning maniac that's always ready to.
He's a giggling weirdo who crushes a frog at one point and sips it.
Yeah, drinks it, and he rips things off of dead animals and just starts eating them. It's kind of nuts. We don't see the Space Guild navigators in this. We see their representatives, and we see people in like weird spacesuits where it's just like an orange mist inside or an orange reflector.
Yeah, again, I feel like that was a sharp contrast to the Lynch films and somewhat the TV miniseries.
Yeah,
that's because they show a Guild Navigator straight away, and literally the entire film I was like, show the Guild Navigator, please. I want to see how he looks.
Yeah, we don't.
No, we don't see him.
We get the worms though, and I mean,
we see the worm.
So it's clear that there's this plot that the Atreides are going to take their place, but then be overrun and killed off mostly by the Harkonnens, supported by the Emperor's elite troop, the Sardaukar. Which was, I think, were represented pretty well in this. They were more like a religious fanatic cult, weren't they?
Yeah, but I feel like the point of the Sardaukar in the books was like the Fremen were the religious ones. They couldn't, and the Sardaukar couldn't compete because they didn't have the complete fanaticism of the Fremen.
Yeah, I always felt like the point was the Sardaukar are raised on a harsh planet, but it doesn't compare to the harshness of Arrakis under the boot of the Harkonnens. Basically, that combination bred a super army, right? That's what that did. Because basically the Harkonnens hunting Fremen were just killing the weak, and they
were killing the ones that it's the survivor's bias.
Yeah.
The ones who can win are the toughest ones, and they're going to teach every other Fremen how to survive, and it's going to keep becoming more and more refined.
That's right. Then we see Lady Jessica wake up Paul to have the test of the Gom Jabbar. Yeah. This is where I have a little, and this is the first scene where I have a little problem with the way Jessica is represented. And I do not blame Rebecca Ferguson for this. She's a great actress with quite a range, and she could have played this many different ways.
Yeah.
I believe she was directed this way. She's kind of weepy and scared all the time, which is not Jessica.
Well, she's weepy and scared for this scene, which does make sense. But aside from that, the only time she really gets over emotional is when Paul is basically telling her to fuck off after he figures out that he's...
Maybe, but I think when you re-watch it, you'll be amazed how much, whenever she's on screen, she's kind of nervy and scared. The only time she really wasn't actually was when she was interviewing the new house staff and the Shadow Apes, where she could have been scared, but she wasn't. That's how Jessica should have been played all the way through.
See, weirdly, I feel like Jessica would have faked being scared there, just to throw him off.
Yeah, well, I think
there's a lot of faking and it's a lot of faking emotion in this book. It's a weird book to read,
and motives and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we get the Gom Jabbar test with Paul putting his hand in the box, and we see
the voice.
The voice
is
actually,
creepy.
there is an earlier scene where she says, "If you want more, to make me give it to you," to test his use of the voice, and it's kind of an interesting version of how the voice works, in that the people immediately react, and it's almost like they cut the film so the voice happens and suddenly they're doing it.
Yeah.
So
they've done it.
Right.
Yeah. I like the differences in the voice. Lady Jessica's was quite high pitched, but still kind of bassy.
Yeah.
Mother Mohane's was just the voice of the devil. It was so deep it would feel like it would pop your eardrums. Paul's, however, was the voice of Legion. He was everything.
Yeah, he was. I like the resonances they had to the soundtrack on the voices. It was kind of cool. Yeah. Anyway, he survives it, and there's chatter about the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah. And he immediately clues in that it's you were trying to thing with me, weren't you?
You tried to breed me that way. All this. I often wonder with this, because I know the story so well, I never have any problems understanding what's going on. But I wonder, people that have never read the book or seen the other film or anything, it must be quite confusing.
Yeah.
And probably a little off-putting.
See, I feel like this is where a Lynchian... the narrations would have been perfect, because they explain this with the narrations pretty much.
And then we meet the various members,
household staff sort of thing.
We meet Duncan Idaho, played by Jason Momoa, which Duncan Idaho is a more skinny, lean, wiry fighting dude in the book.
He's supposed to be the best swordsman, but it's a deceiving look sort of about him.
But he's
he's still tough enough to take on the friggin' Sardaukar. So.
Yes, and beat them. Most of them. We also have Gurney Halleck, which is Josh Brolin. Excellent portrayal of Gurney Halleck. Now, Patrick Stewart played him in the '84, and they did a good job. But Gurney Halleck is an old grizzled bloke, right?
Yeah, I feel like they dropped the Gurney Halleck as a bard sort of angle too much.
Apparently, Villeneuve's been on record saying he regrets having to cut a scene or not have him playing the ballet set and singing.
From what I gather, there's a lot of cut stuff, which does lean into we're going to get a longer cut at some point. Because apparently the whole ball scene just got cut, but was filmed. So,
oh, was it filmed? Interesting. Yeah. And there's other bits that is a major bit that wasn't in the David Lynch version either, right?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting one because it's all about the politics of the of what's going on planet.
You get introduced to a lot of the grander scope characters, such as the Fenrigs, and I think Irulan makes an appearance there as well.
And Smuggler's thing as well. Irulan's not at the ball, no.
Yeah, okay, I can't really remember that bit.
And we also, so we meet them two, and they get well established. There's the fight with Paul with the shields with Gurney.
They demonstrate the shields like straight away. And also that Gurney is the best fighter, even among like Prescients and super soldiers. Gurney can trash them all.
And he's also really angry when Paul says, "I'm not in the mood." He gets properly angry. And scares me a little.
What's he like? Mood is for lovers or something like that.
And we also get very, very, very briefly we see Fufa Howard. But as I say, the character was kind of underrepresented in the film quite a bit. We see him in a couple of scenes.
Yeah, you get him a bit later on, and you do sort of get more of a feeling of how big an influence he is on Paul.
If there's a longer cut, we need to see more Fufa Howard, and Peter DeVries as also.
Yeah, Peter is sorely missing in this film for the most part.
Yeah.
He goes and sees the Sardaukar. That's kind of it for his contribution to the plot.
Yeah. So. In addition, we see the Bene Gesserit seem to be operating a bit less in the shadows than they are in the source material. They seem to be orchestrating things by talking to the Baron as a representative of the Emperor, for example. It seems odd. Peter's in that scene too. They operate.
He's in the scene, but he doesn't really do anything except basically set up for a demonstration of the voice. Really, they have that big spider thing where Peter's like, "Oh, it can't understand English," and she goes, "Leave," in the voice. And he goes, "Yeah, it understands. Get up." So.
Yeah, that's true. We and in that. Mahame says to the Baron, the Emperor wants Paul and Jessica spared. She specifically makes that point. And when she leaves, they're in something called what in the book is called a cone of silence. It's a special field which you can't hear through, basically. And they're within that. And Baron sort of says, as long as I don't kill him, I can stand up to the truth sayer, implying he's going to get him killed one way or another. Yeah. They arrive at the planet, and we see some kind of cool spaceshipy kind of things, don't we? They're kind of a bit like the big thing in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, a big like.
Yeah, it's a bit Vija. The tubes. That's just kind of how the Guild Highliners are.
Yeah,
and that's how they're described. I did like the TV version where all the other ships are like had to dock into the Highliner, and they're like rectangles and slot on. Yeah,
and that's kind of how it's important. Basically, the Highliners, everything lives inside the Highliner. And no one's allowed to fight. It's like a stipulation of space travel. You could be right next to your enemy and you're not allowed to fight. Because if you do, you forfeit space travel rights, which means you're kind of doomed as a
fucked.
So they get to Arakeen, and we find out Duncan's been there, and he's managed to
track down the Fremen.
And he has
slipped my mind. We've been talking so many different terms.
Yeah.
Oh, it feels like I'm watching the opening to Lynch's Dune.
And he makes the point they sent someone to kill him, and it was one of the hardest fights he's ever had against the standard Fremen, right?
Yeah.
So that gives you no idea something's going on. And then there's also a planetologist, Liet Kynes. Now, Liet Kynes is a woman in this, and I kind of like that change. It worked for me totally. I really like Max von Sydow as Kynes in the Lynch version, but I think this worked really well, and she was a good actress and portrayed it well. There was some interesting stuff going on, but then they also meet Stilgar, like an amazing.
Stilgar could not give less of a shit that these people. Yeah. It's like you're just the new face. Come on.
Yeah. He's like.
And then of course he gobs. He just hucks a loogie at the Duke.
Yeah.
It's just such a funny scene. Everyone is about to stab this guy, and Duncan has to do like, "Oh, thank you for your water," just like trying to make it clear to all the guards, sort of thing.
Yeah, but Gurney was about to lay him, but again, still was completely unfazed.
Yeah.
totally unfazed by someone about to draw a knife, which kind of gives you an indication this is a guy who knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Then we see the ornithopters, their version of the ornithopters.
Yeah, I like these.
Cool. They're like dragonflies.
Dragonflies, yeah.
Yeah. Which is not quite like the book. The book is much more like a bird kind of thing. But I like this version, and it
fits in more with the aesthetic, I feel. Like a bug is more, it feels more in place in the desert than a bird.
Fitting in with the whole, this is kind of almost like a medieval politics vibe going on. It kind of fits in because it's a bit steampunk, but not quite. It's mechanical rather than sleek, for example.
It's very mechanical. I'll also say that the Harkonnen spice trawlers, I don't know can't remember the proper name for them. They're like big spiders, whereas the Atreides ones are tanks.
It's kind of cool. And the harvesters are carried off by a sort of balloon. Rather than a big sort of ornithopter kind of thing, which is a cool change.
They did change that the ship does try to come and pick them up instead of just not showing up at all.
It's sabotaged by the Harkonnens, right? Yeah. I don't think it matters too much.
But again, it's framed as the Harkonnens have clearly left us like inferior stuff instead of someone is trying to fuck with us, on a deeper level.
That bit works quite well. And we also see Kynes witnesses the Duke cares more about people than Spice. She seems somewhat impressed.
One thing I will say is they do mention, they once again do the and he will know your ways sort of scene.
Yeah, she mutters it to herself. Right?
Yeah, she mutters it to herself. But this is the only one where they go out their way to mention what they mean by where it in the Fremen style. And it's just it's tightened around his legs. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but it is slip fashion, is what they call it.
It's one of those, you should just not mention it, and it should be like some completely incomprehensible thing.
Yeah. I should mention, as soon as Paul lands, there's this chanting among the crowd, "Listen, which means voice from the outer world, which is like the Messiah. He's not the Messiah.
But they also do mention that this was standard thing for the Harkonnens, which I would fully believe that they would have all the people out in the town square calling them messiahs just for their own kicks.
Yeah. We also find that when Paul lands with his father to rescue the men, the spice in the air, which is portrayed quite well, is kind of goldy glittering in the air, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, you can see it. It's like reflective. They do make a point of, like Charlie goes, like when the wind blows, you can see the spice in the air, and it's like all this.
Yeah, it's well done.
It gives it way more mysticism than I feel like the other films did. So.
Yeah, and Paul suddenly gets like all these premonitions, and it's kind of standing in the desert while the sandworm's about to eat them all, right?
Yeah.
And Gurney has to grab him and pull him.
Yeah, drags it back to the
back and sort of says, "What was that?" and all this. We also get a bit where Paul is asleep and the hunter seeker. We get the hunter seeker. Yeah. That's portrayed as almost like a little bug. Rather than great big.
With like 5 separate needles all pointed in different directions, which does lean to it can just go whichever way.
Because in the books they burrow in, don't they, and find the brain. But the shutout opens the door and attracts it, and he manages to grab it and destroy it.
I'm fully of the opinion she'd have grabbed it and just like had it, because she's a Fremen too.
So I should have mentioned there was also a scene where Jessica's interviewing the staff, and she identifies that Shadow Mapes has got a weapon, and she said it's meant as a gift, and she says something. She means to say a longer phrase, but when she says it, the Shadow Mapes kind of screams like of recognition, which again is explained in the book, but they don't explain this, and I kind of like that.
They do sort of explain it they do mention that like the Bene Gesserit sort of seeded societies.
Yeah, the Missionaria Protectiva has been on the planet, which is really a mechanism to plant legends about Bene Gesserit women, so that if they ever crash land on a planet or get stranded, they're protected by the belief systems of the planet, right? That's what the Missionaria Protectiva is all about. But again, we're explaining quite a lot from the book, that isn't explicit.
Isn't actually in the film, so.
But we do see the giant sandworms at this point, don't we?
Yeah.
Massive, and they're quite well done, and all that.
I like that they're, instead of just being like a tube, like they are in. There's no teeth or anything. It's just like a tube with a mouth on one end, sort of thing. Yeah. It's got like all these like hair-like teeth inside, and you can see them like ripple, and it's all sorts of weird when they're just like looking at you, sort of thing. I guess not looking is probably the wrong word, but yeah.
Yeah, and of course they make the Chris knives that the use as weapons as well. Yeah. And then we get a character who's very underrepresented. We see him very briefly when Paul starts the Gom Jabbar, and then we see him again, which is Dr. Yue, the soup doctor, the doctor trained at the Imperial School. Who has basically
kind of weird that they give him sort of his own set of spice powers instead of just being a doctor. Like,
what do you mean?
Because he so Mentats, they have their like spice based abilities. I mean, the human computers. Bene Gesserit are like super warriors at the best of times. So prescience. The Suk were kind of just really good doctors with really rigid training on their own like loyalty.
Yeah, they could not break their. The idea was if you had the certain doctor, he could not do anything but treat you well, and there was great play made about the Baron that managed to break his conditioning to make him a traitor, which seems like weird. Why would you focus that on doctors? It's possibly a misstep in one of the few missteps in the book of setting up this weird alternate universe stuff. The rest of it kind of works, but that feels a bit okay. But then you think, well, maybe this is a brutal, almost medieval society where people get poisoned and assassinated all the time. So having a doctor you can completely trust is quite a good thing. So it could be that, right? But anyway, it's untrustworthy. But essentially, the Harkonnens, Baron's found a lever. He's got the
he's got his wife. Yeah. What I mean by his own spice powers is like he just sort of like puts his finger on Paul's temple and like moves his own fingers a little and goes like, oh yeah, you got some like mild spice poisoning. It's a bit of a hallucination.
That was a bit weird.
Like, no. So don't do that.
Or something, right?
Yeah. Just give him a thing. Like, you don't even need to explain what the thing is. Everyone, like, every sci-fi show at some point has like a thing. In Star Trek, it's the flashy light that they wave over people. You never get an explanation for that. It's just the thing.
It's just the thing, yeah.
Just wave it over someone and they're better.
Yeah, why not?
That's it.
So he's basically dropped the shields. The Duke finds the shed out maps and realizes something shady is happening, but the Doctor shoots him with a tranquilizer, explains to him that he'll try and do his best for his son and Jessica, but there's no, he's his only way to get to the Baron. He's going to give him a special poison tooth, and the Duke's like, I refuse. But he says, well, if you refuse, I won't be able to help you. And he takes the ducal ring too. So essentially, the Duke
somehow he gets that to Jessica and Paul. I can't. It's just like in their possession in the next time it shows up.
He hides it on the ornithopter that they're secreted on. Essentially, there's also an early scene I forgot to mention where Peter DeVries goes to the Sardaukar to arrange free legions. So we get this planet of Sardaukar where they're all like weird chanting. There's like a didgeridoo sounding chanting going.
Yeah, it's like bass. It's kind of like the black speak from.
It's like that, right?
It sounds kind of like the black speak from Lord of the Rings.
Yes, it does.
Except just bassier.
Now I have to say I found on YouTube a 10-hour cut of Sardaukar.
Yeah, I saw that.
So there's that. I was tempted to download it and cut a bit out and use it as a ringtone, but that so we kind of get
just the like 2-3 seconds of it just looped for 10 hours. So.
Yeah, indeed. But we get a feeling that they are fanatics. So they're actually called fanatic soldiers in the book too. They're fanatics, but with a religious bent in this version.
Yeah, they have them doing like blood sacrifices and dipping like they come out with these big scoops of the blood and like start leaving markings on all their soldiers' heads.
Yeah, it's a bit Urukai, isn't it? It's a bit
a little.
Anyway, the Baron then goes to the Duke and does a bit of taunting, talks to Peter. Again, we haven't had much.
Also, they're weirdly open with the Sardaukar being in the fight, because in the book it's like they disguise the Sardaukar as Harkonnen troops.
As Harkonnens, but
Duncan like twigs on that they're Sardaukar because of how they fight.
Yeah, so. Yeah. They represent the Sardaukars' superiority by having we see the Duke's men fighting the
Harkonnens are just
doing pretty well, but suddenly the Sardaukar turn up and just massacre them before the
that's
join in again.
Quite brutal.
So we get an idea that how powerful the Sardaukar are, and we do, and I can't remember which bit of the film it is. We do get Paul having like one of his visions where Fremen are fighting Sardaukar, and the Fremen, though the Sardaukar are fast, the Fremen are ridiculously good.
Yeah, the whole Fremen like erupting out of the sand is really cool. They do it a couple of times in the film.
Yeah, they do. But we do see a fight where, like, basically, as the Sardaukar are moving through the Fremen are like acrobatically jumping over them and taking them behind and all sorts of things. And then we see the mask come up of one of the Fremen, and it's Paul himself. Yeah. As one of the warriors, so he's kind of having a vision of that. But anyway, to get back to it, we do have the Duke being taunted by the Baron and him doing the poison gas and killing.
Yeah, I think this is the creepiest of the three adaptions, shall we say?
Yeah, the Baron manages to get away with his floaty thing, which again is straight out, not out of the book at all. That is ripping off the Lynch version. The floaty Baron is definitely straight from that. But he doesn't get out of the room, which he does in the other versions.
No, he like ends up. I feel like they're gonna make him a bit more monstery for the next one, just as like poison damage.
Yeah, the poison damage has done something. He's basically floating up in the ceiling. I think he's dead.
Yeah, he's like in the fetal position on the ceiling.
Yeah, and they have to put him in black oil to cure him or something.
Yeah,
it's really weird. And then meanwhile, Paul and Jessica are on an ornithopter with, I think it's two guys, one who's deaf and deaf. So we can't.
Three. There's one in the pilot. There's one sitting just behind it, and then there's the deaf guy that's watching them.
Who can't use the voice, can't be influenced by the voice, right?
Yeah.
And Paul does a bit of his voice stuff, and it doesn't quite work, but then it does, and basically they kill the other. They get them to either kill each other or jump out or all sorts, and they manage to get wrestle control.
I think they demonstrate like a good difference in usage of the voice, because Paul's is just like untie us, and Jessica's is leaning more towards like, oh, don't you want me for yourself sort of thing.
Yeah.
It becomes more the influencing angle as opposed to it's a superpower. So.
Yeah, indeed. And in the book, she actually says, "No need to fight over me, boys," or something like that.
Yeah.
And the word emphasis on the word fight makes them want to fight each other.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. They spend a bit of time in a tent, and did I realise the Duke is dead at this point?
Yeah, because this is where they find the ring and Yue's letter.
Yeah, and Paul reveals he's kind of has these powers. He sort of says to Jessica, "You're pregnant, and you're with my sister." And she said, "How could you know that?" And stuff like that.
It's almost like you bred a super soldier.
Yeah, and he starts getting visions of the Holy War spreading across the Empire under
the jihad.
Yeah. Which they don't use that. They deliberately.
Yeah, they specifically don't use that term. But
it's
for everyone that's not read the book, that's how they phrase it in the book.
And in the Lynch version.
Yeah.
It does come up in the Lynch version.
Well, that's when it.
But it wasn't a loaded word at that time.
Yeah.
It's kind of a loaded word now. So the Baron, because Peter's dead by the gas, he hands it over to Raban and says, "No mercy, just keep crushing.
It's like squeeze them, Raban. Squeeze them."
And basically, Paul and Jessica get found. Don't they get chased? They get chased by a sandworm, don't they? Or is that after? I can't remember.
That's after. They get so far, but then they get waved down by Duncan and Liet Kynes.
Liet Kynes, yeah. And they
who show them to the almost Fremen who are able to fight the Sardaukar on equal terms. Let me be said.
But
these are not the desert Fremen. They still wreck the Sardaukar.
Yeah, but the Sardaukar managed to survive.
Yeah, they sneak in and they like overwhelm most of them, and eventually it's like Duncan in a corridor shouting like, "We'll fight like devils," and just goes nuts.
Just to go back to the Fremen, there was a really nice touch where they were just sitting around making coffee.
Yeah,
and there's just a mere movement above them,
and they're gone
to indicate they're being watched. And then as soon as the Sardaukar land, they're not there, and there's just an empty coffee pot. It's like, where they gone? And they've basically somehow buried themselves they disguise themselves in the sand, ready to go to fight. That's the implication. Yeah. But then
these aren't even the desert Fremen. So
I haven't met the real fighters yet.
Well, Stilgar's the closest they've got. So it's their closest reference, and that's where they go into a second ornithopter, which is they say it's an older model and won't last in the storm. Yeah. So they fly through the storm. Liet Kynes gets stabbed, which is a difference in the book.
Yes. And the Sardaukar killer, don't they?
Yeah, the Sardaukar killer instead of if I remember correctly, they break his still suit in the book.
Yeah, and just leave him in the desert.
Yeah,
you're dead. He has these visions of and he knows what's coming. We also get the bit where Duncan fights the Sardaukar and takes out about 5 or 6.
Yeah, it takes out 5 or 6, gets stabbed through the stomach and drops, and then they start laser cutting through the door in front of him, and then he gets back up and starts going. So.
Yeah, that was great. And it allows Paul and Jessica and Kynes to get out that room because the lasers across it. But Kynes stays back, thinking
stays back and gets the Emperor's person. Yeah, she's the Emperor's representative, but because she's helped them, she gets stabbed for it. But before she gets stabbed, she's trying to get a sandworm down so she can ride it out of there.
Yes, that's right.
And so there's a sandworm on the way, and all these guys are stood in the desert, and she's like, "I'll listen to no greater but Shai Halud," and starts punching the sand, and they get swallowed by the desert.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So Paul and Jessica kind of get away, but they crash. They run across the desert. The worm is chasing them, and they're just about to get to rocks when someone has started another thumper. To distract the worm, and then they get caught by a Fremen, led by Stilgar.
I really like how they did this, because it's not Fremen just sort of dropped in front of them. It's you're surrounded. They just sort of pan to a wide, and the Fremen are just sort of sat there casually. Yeah. They could have been more hidden, but they just don't care because there's that little of a threat, and they're that surrounded.
Now, in the book, Kynes is sent out from him to look for them specifically, but I can't remember in this.
It comes across more as they just found them.
They just found them, and Stilgar happens to be there, and also Chani. And Stilgar's I'm sorry, lady, but
we got no
boy, we can still train, but you, unfortunately, are worth what as water. There's no hard feelings. It's a practical decision.
Yeah, he's just sort of sorry, it's just going to happen. You know how it is. Goes to grab her, and she just cracks his arm around his back and puts him in a headlock. Yeah, and then he's like, "Yeah, guys, just let it happen. Come on. Don't agitate her. Just let it happen. We can sort this out."
Yeah,
There's
and he
says change in tone. That's all.
Yeah, he's not bothered. Again, he's like, why didn't you just say, the weirding way? You're worth your weight, 10 times your weight in water. That's fine, Yeah. Meanwhile, Paul's.
I think it's she gets him in the headlock, and he's immediately like, "Oh, you're a Sayadina, I see."
Yeah. They have a title for their own Reverend. They're called Reverend Mothers too by the Fremen, but Sayadina, and he calls her a Sayadina. And meanwhile, Paul's run up into the rocks, but he comes down. But he found Kynes behind him. Charlie was there all the time saying, "I would not have let you harm my friends."
Yeah.
My troop or whatever. Yeah. And he recognises her, and he's kind of taken aback by this. Now, Jamis, one of the troop, it takes exception to Stilgar given them favors and believes that it's wrong and throws out a challenge.
Well, it's kind of indirect. From what I remember of the book, he's like, "This is wrong. I'm challenging you, Stilgar."
No, that specifically doesn't happen. He challenges Paul directly. I think in the film it's more like
in the film it's like
Sayadina, but she can't.
He challenges her because she's beat him. She's beat Stilgar. But then Paul steps up as her representative.
No, Jamis. When Paul first runs, he knocks over Jamis doing it, which annoys him, right? Because Jamis is a good fighter and thinks he was taken by surprise, and he challenges it. Now, Stilgar actually baits him a little to sort of draw the anger back to him, but in the book I'm talking about, but Jamis says, "I know you tricked Stilgar. This is a thing, and it's a challenge that has to be met. This is part of their tribal customs, right?" And he says. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so they interesting in the book they have to strip down to basically very little clothing
because they're in loincloths
because they're fighting. But in this they kept their steel suits on and they get to fight. But then we see Paul is our superior fighter.
Yeah, Paul just trashes this guy. He just keeps ending up with his knife on his neck going, yield.
Yield.
And this is the only point where Stilgar changes his tone. It's just sort of like, come on, asshole, just kill him, sort of thing. Is he fucking with him?
He says, "Are you playing with him? This isn't,
Yeah, this isn't right. Don't do this." It's disrespectful.
I think Jessica says.
Yeah, Jessica specifically says he's never killed a person before, and then Stilgar immediately goes back to, okay, yeah. It's like
so we get to say Paul is a superior fighter, and I like the yielding thing as the way of representing the difference in cultures. I think it works quite well, and it converts what was in the book. It's quite a difficult thing to represent. I think quite well in this film, so it works.
Because in the book they have theoretically infinite pages to describe how much better Paul is at the fighting and the ways in which he can win without actually progressing the story. So.
Indeed. So kills Jamis and he gets to claim his water, right? So Jessica.
Johnny's kind of sassy about it, the whole thing, which I
Johnny does actually say, you're not going to beat Jamis. He won't make you suffer. He's a good man that way.
Yeah, he's a good fighter. It's like, here, have my knife. It'll be good to be wielded by a duke for a few minutes.
Yeah. But she says, you aren't the listener, Gabe.
Yeah.
She's fairly matter of fact. It's kind of good. Yeah. But Jessica actually says, we need your help to get us off planet so we can present a case against the Emperor and the Harkonnens. But Paul's no, this is our home. We are staying here. That's a slightly different from the book, and I think it's a really good twist, actually. Yeah. Really works for me. It's like Paul is embracing some aspects of his future. Not necessarily all of them, but he's embracing his Fremenness, isn't he? I think ultimately that he sees that's how he can survive what's going on. It's almost like if you go to the Emperor, you're putting yourself in the Emperor's hands, really.
Yeah, because early on, while him and Jessica are still with Liet Kynes, he does suggest if I go to the Emperor, I can offer myself up as a marriage candidate for his daughters, and even Kynes is like, you're going to make a pass at the throne? Come on, man. You're in the weakest position here. That's not going to happen.
So. And then the film ends, and there's a bit of we got the future to come. There's a bit more dialogue from Chani, if I remember right.
Yeah, she's like, this is just the beginning.
This is just the beginning. That's it. That's the word. Really enjoyed this film. It's only half the story. It's interesting that Lynch managed to fit the whole story into the same running time. And in quite an entertaining. Let's be straight. I love Lynch's version of Dune. I watched it after watching this. Really enjoyed it as much, but I like this version a lot too.
Yeah. Both versions have their own merits.
Indeed. And they bear up. It's the same story, completely different style, and it's very interesting because of that. If it was similar, it wouldn't be as interesting for sure. But this one is a good one. Got any final thoughts?
Final thoughts? I really wish we'd have seen that ball scene, because that's kind of the hinge of the whole plot. That's how the Atreides know that they're being plotted against. Well, more than normal. So
The ball scene to me isn't that significant for the plot, but it's a nice, interesting scene where you see some of the power plays of the light.
Yeah, it also establishes the universe in a grander scale. It feels very like centralized between 3 planets in this one. So
yeah.
We see a bit of Gadi Prime, but not much. It's mainly just the Emperor's habitat. We see a fair bit of Caladan and a lot of Arrakis.
And I have to say, both Caladan and Gadi Prime, which is the home of House Harkonnen, are very similar looking to the Lynch version of the planets, right? There's some very similar.
I don't remember how Caladan is in the Lynch one, but
there's a lot of sea and washing up on rocky shores in that one. We don't see it for very much, but we do. But it does feel like Castle Macbeth in both of them. There's definitely that kind of feel. So there is that. I really like this one too. I think hard to compare them, but if I had to pick one, it would be Lynch's one. But they're both quite excellent, I would say. I haven't really got much else to say. I think we covered everything. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Stilgar, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And more of Timothée Chalamet as Paul as well. I think there's going to be some interesting stuff coming in part 2. It'd be interesting how they do it, and I ideally hope there is a director's cut of this which inserts more material back in. The ball would be definitely.
Yeah, the ball's the obvious one because they just kind of get a feeling that they're being plotted against in this and in the Lynch one. So, and
I think we need to see more of Teufer Howard, Peter DeVries, and Dr. Ewer as well to understand those characters. The thing is, the little bit we saw of Stilgar was so great that was enough to get proper grip. And we saw enough of Gurney Halleck, we saw enough of Duncan, and so on. We didn't see enough of those 3 who are important characters in the material, in my opinion. So there is that. Okay. Yeah. So, what would you give this out of? On your scoring system?
I'd give this an easy 9.
Yeah, I think this is
it's like even just for the spectacle of it. Good lord, it's a pretty film.
Yeah, it's really interesting and looks great. And there's some other stuff we haven't kind of mentioned, which aren't particularly central to the plot, but are interesting takes on the source material, different versions of what they were trying to represent in the source material that work quite well. But I also agree it's a 9 out of 10 for me too. Yeah. So okay, let's wind it up there. So I think next time we'll be doing a comfy chair.
Yeah.
But, until next time, bye from me.
Bye.